The battlefield was silent now. The war had passed through like a storm. Broken weapons, scorched metal, and fallen bodies covered the ground. The sky above was dark and heavy with smoke. The fires were dying slowly, leaving only small orange lights in the dust. Sergeant Alex Traynor stepped through the ruined alien camp with careful steps. His rifle was held tight, eyes sharp. His boots crunched over glass and black sand. Each step reminded him that the war with the Zelari was brutal and unforgiving. They were not like humans. The Zelari were taller, stronger, and trained to never surrender. Alex had fought them for years, and not once had he seen a Zelari warrior give up. They died with honor, with rage, with their blades in hand. That's why he stopped walking. A soft sound broke the silence. It came from one of the broken tents ahead, too soft to be a weapon, too real to ignore. He raised his rifle slowly. "Come out," he said, his voice low but firm. No answer, just another quiet sound, like someone trying not to breathe too loudly. Alex stepped closer. The tent's side was torn open. Blackened with smoke, inside he saw something move. A figure crawled into the light. It was a Zellara female. Her armor was cracked, her left shoulder bleeding. She looked up at him with golden eyes that burned like fire. Alex froze for a second. This was no civilian. This was a warrior. He took a step back and raised his rifle again, but before he could fire, she dropped to her knees. Slowly, she raised her hands, not in defense, but in surrender. "Please," she said in a soft voice, "don't kill me, human." Her voice shook, her body did too, but not from fear of pain. It was something else. "If you let me live." She whispered, "I will warm your bed." Alex blinked, confused. He had never heard those words from a Zelari. Never. "You're a soldier," he said. "You're supposed to fight to the death." She lowered her head. "I lost," she whispered. "Where I come from." The defeated belong to the victor. Alex looked at her, trying to understand. She was proud, wounded, and strange. She had no weapon, no fight left. But even now, she wasn't begging for freedom. She was offering herself. "I don't want a slave," Alex said, voice harder than before. "I'm not asking to be one," she replied quickly. "I just don't want to die alone in the dirt." He stared at her. This didn't feel like a trick. Her voice was too soft, too tired. She wasn't playing a game. "Turn around," he said. She obeyed. Without a word, he tied her hands behind her back. With the last of his field rope, she didn't fight it, didn't even flinch. "I could have shot you," Alex said, pulling her to her feet. "But you didn't," she replied, "and that means something." He walked her outside the camp, set up a small fire, and sat across from her. She stayed on her knees, hands tied, watching the flames. "What's your name?" he asked after some time. "Vera," she whispered. "But if you want to give me another name, I will accept it." "I don't want to name you," Alex said. "I just want answers." She stayed silent, then looked into the fire. "We were told humans are monsters," she said. "No mercy, no heart, only rage." He didn't reply. He just looked at her as the fire cracked and popped. Vera shifted slightly, then added, "I don't know if I still believe that." The wind blew cold across the sand. She shivered, but said nothing. Alex noticed and tossed a blanket toward her. "Use that," he said. She pulled it close and whispered, "Thank you." Alex didn't understand this. She was an enemy. She should hate him, should spit at him. But instead, she looked at him like he was her last chance. And somehow, he didn't hate her either. Not yet, not anymore. The fire had burned low, sending soft red light across the ground. Alex stayed awake, sitting with his back against a rock, his weapon close. Vera didn't speak again, not for hours. She stayed wrapped in the blanket, her hands still tied behind her. The desert night was cold, but she didn't complain. She only looked at him now and then, quietly, as if thinking deeply. She didn't look like a killer anymore. She looked tired. Around midnight, clouds moved across the sky, hiding the moons. The temperature dropped fast. Alex pulled his jacket tighter. But Vera's skin began to tremble. She finally spoke. Her voice low, human, she said. In my world, when two souls survive a war, they share warmth. He looked at her but didn't answer. We don't sleep alone. Not if there's someone left to hold, she added. Alex didn't move. He didn't trust her yet. But something about her voice had changed. It wasn't seductive. It wasn't begging. It was honest. You trying to trick me? I asked. Vera slowly shook her head. I wouldn't survive the night. Not with the wounds and the cold. She leaned forward slightly, the firelight catching her golden eyes. And if I die now, your mercy meant nothing. That line made him pause. He didn't think about it before, how kindness, if wasted, could feel cruel. She shifted on the ground, trying to find a more comfortable position, but with her hands tied. She winced and let out a small cry. Alex stood up with a sigh, walked over, and crouched beside her. You run, I shoot, he said. Untangling the knot, Vera nodded slowly. As soon as her hands were free, she didn't run. She rubbed her wrists quietly, then looked up at him. I said I would warm your bed, not for trade or fear. She placed her hand on the blanket and looked down, but because I don't want to be alone tonight. Alex didn't respond. He simply sat back down and watched her. Minutes passed. Then Vera stood up slowly, wrapped in the blanket like a cloak. She walked closer and sat beside him without touching. They didn't speak. The fire crackled between them. Throwing shadows on the rocks, she closed her eyes and leaned her head against his shoulder, and for the first time, Alex didn't pull away. He should have, he knew that, but something about her presence didn't feel like a trap. It felt like two enemies. Left with no one but each other, she whispered something in her language. A soft prayer, maybe, or a goodbye to the dead. Then she whispered one more thing, just loud enough for him to hear. You smell strange. But not bad, Alex let out. A small breath, something between a laugh and a sigh. This was going to be the weirdest night of his life, and it had only just begun. The wind howled just before dawn, carrying sand through the rocks like whispers of the dead. Alex hadn't slept, not really. He sat with his back against the stone, eyes half closed, rifle still in reach, but next to him, Vera lay curled under the blanket, her breathing soft and steady. She had moved closer sometime during the night. Now her head rested lightly on his arm. He could feel the warmth of her skin even through his jacket. He should have pushed her away. She was the enemy. But she didn't feel like one anymore. Not when she slept like that. Like someone who had finally found peace. The first light of morning crept over the horizon, golden and red, cutting across the wreckage around them. It painted her face with soft light, making her look less alien, more human than she had the day before. Alex looked at her wounds. The bruises along her arms, the burn mark on her neck. She had taken damage protecting her own soldiers. That much was clear from her armor's placement, and now she was lying next to a human soldier, completely unarmed, trusting him not to kill her in her sleep. He reached for his pack, pulled out a small ration bar, and opened it carefully. The sound woke her. Vera blinked a few times, then sat up slowly. She looked at him, then the food in his hand, but didn't move. You can have half, he said. Tossing it toward her, she caught it clumsily, looked down at the wrapper. Then back at him. This smells awful, she muttered. It is, he said, but it keeps you alive. She took a small bite, winced, then chewed slowly. Your people eat this every day. She asked. Sometimes worse, Alex replied. He took a bite from his half. Not taking his eyes off her, she finished her share without a word, then looked up at the sky. "I thought I'd die yesterday," she said, "but now the sun is rising." She looked at him again, softer this time. "Do you think this means something?" Alex didn't answer. He was trained to fight, not to understand meaning. But something about her question stayed in his mind. Vera stood slowly and stretched, her arms still stiff from the night. She didn't ask for chains, didn't try to. Run. She just looked around, scanning the broken land as if trying to remember where she was. "My people will hunt me now," she said quietly. "I surrendered. I failed. They'll see me as a traitor." Alex nodded. "Your people don't." "Forgive," he said. She looked at him with tired eyes. "No," she said, "and yours do." He shrugged. Sometimes they packed up in silence. No orders, no threats. Just to people moving through the ruins of war. Alex handed her a scarf to cover the worst of her wounds. She accepted it with a short nod, wrapping it around her. "Neck, why are you helping me?" she asked finally as they began to walk. "I killed your kind." "So did I," he replied. "That's war. But this?" This is after they walked for a while without speaking. Then Vera broke the silence again. "You're strange for a human," she said. "You didn't take what I offered, you didn't chain me again, and you fed me." Alex stopped walking and looked at her. "Maybe you're strange for a Zelari," he said. She smiled just a little. "I was always too soft for command," she whispered. "That's why I survived." Alex didn't respond, but deep down, he wondered if, too. Soft soldiers survived. Maybe softness wasn't weakness after all. The sun rose higher, washing the broken land with pale light. The wind had softened, but the cold was still sharp. Alex and Vera moved slowly through the old canyon trail. They didn't speak much, but the silence between them no longer felt. Like a wall, they stopped near a dry riverbed to rest. Vera sat on a rock, arms folded. Watching the sky like she was waiting for something, Alex sat across from her. Checking his rifle and gear, her eyes drifted to his hands, then his face. "You were ready to kill me yesterday," she said quietly. He looked up. "I still could." He replied, not smiling. "But you didn't," she said. "And now I don't know who I am." Alex raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Vera looked down at her hands. These hands. They were trained to break bones, to throw blades, to fight until nothing moves. She opened and closed her fingers slowly. "But now I use them to eat your food, hold your blanket, sit near your fire. You think that makes you weak?" He asked. She shook her head. "I don't know what it makes me." She looked up, her golden eyes softer now. "All I know is, it's the first time in years I haven't felt like a weapon." Alex leaned back against a stone. Silent, he understood. What she meant, more than he wanted to admit. Many times, he wondered the Samyef War was the only thing left in him. And if peace would ever feel real again. Vera took a slow breath, then looked at him carefully. "Can I ask something strange?" Alex nodded. "Back at your camp, when you rest. Do humans ever dream about those they've killed?" His eyes darkened a little. "Sometimes," he said. Too often, she nodded slowly, as if that answer hurt but didn't surprise her. "I see their faces," she whispered, "especially the ones who hesitated." "The ones I cut down too fast?" Her voice cracked slightly. "I told myself it was duty, honor. But it never felt right." Alex said nothing. He just watched her. A warrior who never wanted to be one. Vera covered her face with her hands. She stayed like that for a while, quiet, and then without warning, she began to cry. Not loud, not dramatic, just soft, broken sobs like something inside her finally cracked open. Alex looked away at first, unsure of what to do. But then he walked over and sat beside her. He didn't touch her, didn't speak. He just sat, letting her cry without judgment, When her sobs faded, she wiped her face roughly and looked at him again. "Do humans see tears as weakness?" "No," he said, "but some of us pretend they are." She gave a small, dry laugh. "Then maybe you and I are both very good at pretending." They sat side by side for a while longer. No more words, no more lies, just to people who had survived. Something they didn't ask for, trying to figure out what came next. The wind picked up again in the late afternoon, carrying dust across the rocks like whispers from the past. Alex and Vera had traveled in silence for a long while. Their steps matched without effort now, as if some invisible thread had formed. Between them, when they reached a small cave hidden in the cliffside, Alex decided they'd stop there for the night. He checked the entrance, looked for signs of movement, then nodded. "Safe enough," he muttered. Vera stepped inside slowly, her golden eyes scanning the walls. She placed her hand on the cool stone and exhaled. "It's quiet here," she said. I don't remember what quiet felt like. Alex built a small fire with dry scraps from his pack. He sat down, leaned against the cave wall, and handed her the last heat pack ration. She took it without a word, opened it, and sniffed. "Still smells terrible," she said with a faint smile. Alex smirked. "Better than starving." She nodded and sat beside him. A little closer than before. She didn't ask to. She didn't need to. As the firelight flickered across the stone walls, Vera turned to him suddenly. "Why haven't you touched me?" she asked. Voice calm, not accusing. "You could have any time, and no one would stop you." Alex didn't look at her. Instead, he kept his eyes on the fire. "Because I'm not that kind of man," he said, "and you don't really want that." Her eyes studied him closely. "What if I did?" Alex turned his head slowly. "Do you?" Vera didn't answer, not with words. She looked down at the fire again. "I don't know what I want," she whispered. "I've always followed orders, always done what I was told." Then she looked at him again, her eyes softer than he had ever seen them. "But this feels different." They sat in silence, the fire snapping gently between them. Alex finally spoke again. "Kindness is dangerous out here," he said. "Sometimes it's mistaken for weakness." "And sometimes," she replied, "it's the only thing that keeps someone alive." He looked at her, really looked, and for a moment, she wasn't just an alien warrior anymore. She was a woman tired, scarred, and maybe a little lost, but still strong in ways he was just beginning to understand. Vera leaned her head on his shoulder slowly. Alex didn't move. He let her rest there, feeling the quiet rise between them. "Like a blanket," she whispered. "You confuse me? Human? Good," he replied, closing his eyes. "You confuse me too." And with that, the cave settled into stillness, but in the silence, something warm had begun to grow, something unexpected, something neither of them had a name for yet. The night was deep and quiet. The fire had faded to glowing coals, and the stars blinked outside the cave. Alex had drifted into light sleep, his rifle close, his body tense, even in rest. Vera was curled beside him, wrapped in the blanket they had shared. Her breathing was soft, her face peaceful for the first time since the war began. Then the silence broke. A sudden noise, like a heavy step crunching stone. Alex's eyes opened instantly, his hand grabbing the rifle before he fully sat up. Vera moved too, instinct reacting before thought. Her hand reached for the blade tucked in her boot. "Stay down," Alex whispered. But it was already too late. 3 shadows appeared at the cave's mouth, tall, armored, and moving with purpose. Zelari warriors, not human, her people. One of them stepped forward, his voice sharp like a blade. "Vera of Clan Dukkar, you are charged with surrender, betrayal, and sleeping beside the enemy." Vera stood slowly, body tense. She didn't deny the words. She only said, "I chose life." The warrior raised his weapon. Then you will die for that choice. Alex aimed his rifle in one clean motion. Back off, he warned. The other two warriors spread out. Circling the cave's edge, Alex could see it clearly. This wasn't a warning. This was an execution squad, sent to kill a traitor. Get behind me, Alex said to Vera, but she didn't move. Her hand touched his arm. No, she said. They're here for me, not you. I don't care. He said through clenched teeth. You think I'm going to let them take you after all this? One of the Zellery warriors stepped forward and raised his plasma spear. In that moment, Alex fired. The shot hit the attacker in the chest. Dropping him hard, the other two rushed forward, weapons raised. Vera screamed his name, then charged. With her blade, her strike was fast, clean, her movement sharp like thunder. She took down the second Zellery, but not before a blade cut across her side. Alex shot the last one just before it reached her again. The silence returned just as suddenly as it had shattered. 3 Zellery bodies now lay at the edge of the cave. Smoke drifted from Alex's rifle, and blood dripped from Vera's blade. She collapsed onto her knees, clutching her side. Alex dropped beside her, tearing open his kit for bandages. Why didn't you stay behind me? He asked, voice shaking. I had to fight them, she whispered, her voice weak. If I didn't, I would never forgive myself. He wrapped the cloth tightly around her ribs, pressing hard. You're not a traitor, he said. You're brave. Vera looked up at him with tears in her eyes. No one's ever fought for me before, she whispered, not even my own blood. Alex held her steady, and in that cave, with death all around them, he knew something had changed. Not just in her, but in him too. The morning sun rose slowly over the canyon. Soft light touched the bodies outside the cave. The battle was over. But something inside Vera and Alex had only just begun. Alex sat near the entrance, watching the sunrise in silence. His rifle was across his knees, but his mind was far away, behind him. Vera slept with her back against the stone wall, her wound bandaged and her face calm. She had lost blood, but not her will. Not her fire. When she awoke, her first word was his name, soft and full of meaning. He turned, met her eyes, and said nothing. He didn't need to. They packed what little they had left. Neither spoke much. But the silence between them was no longer strange. It felt familiar now, like the quiet after a storm by midday. They reached the old human camp. It had already been reclaimed. Soldiers clearing out the last supplies. A dropship waited in the field nearby, its engines humming quietly. Alex called in his report, gave his name, and waited for orders. The commanding officer looked at Vera with suspicion. She's Zellery, he said. Why is she with you? She surrendered. Alex replied simply. And she fought on our side when we were attacked. The officer raised an eyebrow. Fine, he said. She can take a prisoner's seat on the ship, but once we land, she'll be processed, interrogated, and sent back. Vera looked at Alex, her face unreadable. He saw it in her eye sphere. Pride and something deeper. As the ship prepared for takeoff, he walked over to her. You don't have to go back, he said. They'll ask questions, but I'll vouch for you. Vera shook her head slowly. If I return, I'll be killed, she whispered. But if I stay, I won't be the same woman who entered that cave. He reached out, gently touched her hand. You don't have to be, he said. You can be whoever you want now. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, without warning, she dropped to her knees, just like the first day they met. But this time, she didn't beg. This time, her voice was steady. If you'll have me, she said, I'll warm your bed, not because I have to, but because I want to. I choose you, human. Alex didn't smile, didn't speak. He just reached down, helped her to her feet, and nodded. They walked onto the ship together, side by side, and in the eyes of everyone else. They were enemies, but in that moment, they were something more, something real, something only war could have built.